Coming up, what was your very first memory?
My birth.
Unforgettable.
I had intense curiosity.
The extraordinary people
It's almost like I was just there seconds ago.
who remember every moment
Can replay, rewind, fast forward.
of every day.
Is correct.
Why their gift could change the world.
We find some cures for dementia. That's my hope.
Welcome to the Extra Minutes podcast. We're talking about Highly Superior Autobiographical Memory, a story that you can have a look at if you like on YouTube and 9Now for the full picture. But let's have a chat. Sammi, my producer.
Hi, Tara.
Thank you for bringing us that story.
Yeah.
Hi, Sammi. Yeah.
It's a fun one. It's a little bit different.
Well, it's so quirky, isn't it? Because it really does give you a picture into a very unique mind. I know we call it a beautiful mind, and it truly was. But this is a very small club of people, and we have done this story over the years. But what initiated it this time around?
Yeah, so 60 Minutes looked at this back in 2011 with Mary Lou Henner, who's an American actress. I think she was on Taxi.
Yes.
And so in 2011, 60 Minutes looked at what was at the time an even smaller group of people with HSAM, Mary Lou being one of them. And then we revisited the story again in 2016 when Becky Sharrock in Brisbane was the first ever Australian that has HSAM and is still, as far as we're aware, the only Australian
Yes.
with HSAM. And so then this time around, I was reading about a story of a young woman in Canada, Emily Nash, and we think, at least, that she is the youngest person with HSAM. She's 18 years old and living in Canada and is part of this club of less than 100 people with these amazing brains.
Yes, and when you say the youngest with it, you mean the youngest to be identified,
Yes,
right? Because
absolutely.
her memory spans back to being in the high chair, she told me, remembering running around, learning to walk, mum and dad chasing her, very early memories.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see her go back in her mind to those really early moments and to remember them and tell us about them with such clarity.
And then when you think she's kidding, then there's Becky who thinks she might remember the day she was born.
Yeah.
That was
astounding.
incredible to hear, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
I know that she's so candid about it, and she admits that she certainly can't prove it to the skeptics, but she remembers being wrapped in a blanket. She remembers an ID being put onto her ankle.
Those really, really early childhood memories that you can't even imagine you or I being able to recall, that she can go that far back is pretty incredible.
I loved it when she said she didn't know what a sister was, but she wasn't keen on sharing toys.
When her little sister was born, she was unimpressed, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. How did you find meeting these people and sort of getting that glimpse into how they think and what they remember?
I think Emily and Becky, at least, are incredibly fascinating people, and hearing both of them speak specifically about how they categorize their memories. So Emily described it to us as if she has a calendar laid out in front of her where every single day of her life she can look at as if it's a movie, and she can hit replay, rewind, pause on every second of that day, which I just think is fascinating. And for Becky, she described it more as like a filing cabinet almost, that she's got every day that she remembers in her brain, and she can kind of go back. Starts with a personal experience, a memory. I think you would agree, watching Becky remember, it's almost, you can see how she kind of is coming to describe what she remembers and the specifics of those days.
That's right, and because of the way her memory works, it's never a short answer, because you can see the links that she makes. And I think for both women, it was very clear that while you might expect that they remember everything that happened on every day of their life, what they actually remember is what really interests them. Yes. And then if a world event happens to be attached to that day, that they, something big happens in their life that they just it's imprinted on their brain. But if on that day, the king abdicated or something, that even as a young person, that they would clock that. But it's always linked to something personal, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it was also a bit of a test of our memories and of how we approached that. We came with some randomly generated days that we would ask Becky or Emily about, to see what they remembered from those days. And instantly, Becky would say, oh, well, that day was a Tuesday. And I think I was behind the camera furiously Googling, was this day actually a Tuesday? Yes, she's correct.
She's right. She's right.
It's remarkable.
Yeah. Of course, they can't stop these memories flooding their brains, and sometimes those memories are not good memories. That was an interesting aspect, wasn't it? And something that when talking to both women, you felt sorry in a way. Becky was very good at explaining the chaos and the stress that she feels. But they also come up with tools on how to accommodate that and combat it.
Yeah, or almost the burden that is and learning how to navigate that. I think Becky's obviously a bit older than Emily. Becky's 34 and so has had quite a bit of time perhaps to learn different techniques and things that she can use when those really awful memories come flooding back, because it's as if she's back right at that first moment, reliving it, as if it happened on the day. That's how strong those memories can be, and they're not things that she can forget.
No, that's right, and they carry emotion with them.
Absolutely.
And again, both women described feeling the emotion as the memory hits. So remembering, this is a good one, a good memory, remembering tasting ice cream for the first time and all the emotions, the flavours obviously, the texture, the temperature, but also the emotion of happiness filled with when you have your first chomp on an ice cream cone, which is a lovely memory to have.
Yeah.
But if those emotions are bad or negative, take you back to that sad place, it's like time has done nothing to heal.
100%. I think Emily's parents were really great at discussing kind of how they've navigated that as Emily's grown up. They've obviously only realised that Emily has HSAM as she's been kind of in her later teenage years. But I think Julie, Emily's mum, really described quite well that they don't worry so much about the small stuff. They have to really encourage Emily's positive experiences and make sure that she is supported, and so that when those bad experiences happen, maybe in the future a death in the family or a breakup with a partner or something like that, that it's not this huge burden to her everyday life.
And again, as we told in our story, Emily has such a positive attitude and is such a lovely person, and that she's taught herself the importance of forgiveness.
Yes.
So she doesn't hang on to the anger associated with a memory around a wrongdoing. She's forgiven that person.
Absolutely.
It's a really nice kind of thought.
I think you said to her, most people will forget their mistakes or, a misstep with Emily, but Emily can't forget, so she has to be able to forgive.
Yeah, which she does. Now, I wonder, again, her parents, talking of her parents, they raise the prospect of how, how not under the thumb, but how judged you might be as a parent by your child if they can never forget your mistakes.
Yeah, as a parent, how did you, think about that when you were asking Julie,
No, I'm grimacing. I'd be in so much trouble by now. I don't have children who forgive that easily. But it's a terrible spectrum. I mean, it's kind of daunting. It must
Absolutely.
be so difficult. And as you pointed out, the actual identification of this superior memory comes late to
Yes.
these families. And so up until that point, there's a quirkiness within their family that they don't really know how to explain.
Exactly.
There's a difference. And so a diagnosis, if you like, or an identification opens up a world of understanding and a connection, I think,
Yes.
between child and parent.
And then
is
to
nice.
reflect back, I imagine, on, the first 15, 16 years of Emily's life, I think it would have given her and her family a lot of answers around, her interest in certain subjects, some of her behaviours, all of those things, which, it would have given them some clarity, I imagine.
Yeah. And imagine being a teenager and being that different, being able to remember things, being able to recite them in class and being told you're a brainiac. I know Becky struggled with that. She said at the time when you just want to, hide in the crowd, fall into the crowd and not be seen, be invisible in a way, that you're standing out because your brain is so different.
Absolutely. And I think, they're both such bright young women, so clever and so kind of dedicated to their interests. Emily obviously loved maths and science and is using her memory in that regard in a really, imagine being at university sitting next to Emily in a biology class where she reads the textbook, and remembers basically all of the content. It's pretty incredible.
And they are incredible in the sense too that they're at the cutting edge of understanding really what is going on. They're opening yet another window into the human mind, because really this has only been identified as a thing since 2006. And in the world of science, that's a very recent discovery, isn't it?
And even in chatting with Dr. Carmen Westerberg in our story, she's one of very few experts in that field. It's not something that's being widely researched. It's not something that we know a lot about. And there's also only so many people that they can speak to about this experience, because there is such a small number of people that have HSAM. So, any help that people like Emily and Becky can give to the scientists and experts that are working in these fields to try to better understand memory and dementia and Alzheimer's and those kinds of conditions is obviously of huge benefit to them.
And for Emily, it's a very personal journey. She saw 2 grandparents with dementia. She wants to not only donate, if you like, her amazing brain or the use of that brain to help science, but she actually wants to be one of those scientists and doing it. Studying it,
amazing.
Understanding it, making a difference.
Yeah, no, it's really, really incredible. And just to see how dedicated she is to that already, instantly when you ask her about what she wants to do with her future, it was always looking at how she can help others and how she can learn more, not just about, what she's experiencing herself, but how she can use that to benefit, a larger community, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, it is a burden, but it's a burden that Emily embraces. She, when asked, would she rather not have it, it's something that she does have, and she wants to accept it. And she's not unrealistic. She has bad days and good days. She'll remember both equally, but she is grateful for the positives, and she's grateful for, as we said earlier, that ability to relive the emotion connected to those memories and to share them and remind people
absolutely.
of events in her life.
I think as well, it was something that Carmen mentioned to us. Every time 60 Minutes or another program looks at HSAM when it's back in the news, it creates more people contacting people like her and other scientists around the world saying, this all sounds very familiar to me, or this sounds like my uncle. This sounds like, somebody in my life. And it helps kind of get the word out, have a better understanding of what this might look like. And for other people, it helps them maybe identify that they might have this themselves.
Absolutely. I think also, stories like ours help people understand the ups and downs of something like this, that it's not all fun. It's a curiosity for a lot of people, but I think if we can spend the time communicating that sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's always amazing, but that these people are living with something quite different and quite extraordinary and quite difficult. It's good, I think hopefully they were happy with our story.
I think so. And I think, hopefully as more stories, this is something we've revisited a couple of times on the program now. We might revisit it again when there's maybe another Australian that is part of the HSAM club. But, the more people that are aware of it and the more people that are across, what HSAM looks like, perhaps the larger that club gets and the deeper our understanding of memory and the brain is too.
Would you like to have it?
I don't think so. And I think it was quite clear I actually thought that I had quite a good memory before this story. And I particularly thought that I was quite good with dates, at remembering dates, and spending time with Becky and Emily. I've decided that is not the case at all. They're just remarkable in that respect. And
you won't forget this, though, will you?
Of course not.
Never, ever, right?
Never, ever. Never, ever.
How are you assessed for HSAM?
It's a kind of variety of tests that they do in terms of cognition. Some of it is just to do with dates and recall. I know Emily's process in particular was quite extensive. She travelled to the US to meet with doctors and scientists there. They did sleep studies. They, spent hours and hours of the day sitting down with her and filling out tests on dates and world events and pop culture moments, which is kind of her interest, her personal interest, to determine whether or not this was something that she had.
So if you get a score out of 10 out of 10, you've got it. If you've got 1 out of 10, you clearly don't. But
I think so. I think that's basically how it works, yeah.
And it's interesting too that in those studies that Emily was involved in and continues to be, that there's some conclusion that it's not that people like Emily and Becky take more in than you and I, but their brain works in such a way that it stores it better. And so they simply don't forget as much as we do. We forget, obviously, almost instantly some things.
And that's why those sleep studies were so important, because it showed overnight that Emily's brain was almost working overtime, that it was converting all of those experiences throughout the day into lasting memories and storing them, far better than you or I store memories when we sleep.
They just need to learn how to call on them when they want to and know how to get rid of them when they come unbidden.
Yeah, it is a superpower, but it's a superpower that they, I suppose, don't have control over, which makes it difficult.
Rather chaotic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
Sammi,
you,
is there
Tara.
anything else we want to talk about?
No, I think it's
anything else you can remember?
I remember this story very, very well, and I loved filming it. And I think they're incredible people that hopefully, are doing really well and learning how to manage HSAM as best they can and use that to help others too.
Yeah, and did a beautiful job in communicating what they're experiencing and brave to put themselves out there and talk to us. I thought they were terrific. And you can go back and watch that story called A Beautiful Mind on YouTube or 9 Now. Thank you very much for your time.